When Marvel Comics and Tom Brevoort announced their From the Ashes lineup with the bloated amount of titles and really inept amount of creators on it, we predicted this stuff ain't going to last very long. A lot of these books, including the one we're about to talk about, NYX, I didn't think would go past 6 issues, but I had forgotten that Dan Buckley, literally at last year's Comics Pro, said, we're going to give our new books at least 10 issues. We've got the 10 issues on NYX, and that is going to be the end. C'est la vie to NYX and X-Force. The first 2 comic books canceled in what will certainly end up being an X-Men Bloodbath over the next few months as these titles get up to that 10th issue. They don't have the sales, they don't have the interest, and they're just going to kind of axe them, get rid of them, and replace them with other books that, quite frankly, are also going to be canceled in short order. And we're going to be seeing a culling of the herd. X Factor is not long for this world. I think Exceptional X-Men will last longer because they called it a third flagship title. It is not. The sales aren't great, and it's a terrible book. I don't think that Phoenix is going to be all that long for the world. We'll see how Storm does, but there's a lot of books that need to be canceled. But admittedly, NYX absolutely makes sense as the first book to be canceled at the start of this X-Men Bloodbath that we're about to experience here. And we learned it from Jackson Lanzig. He went out on social media and announced it, stating, as has become readily apparent from the Marvel solicitations, NYX, our current book on the From the Ashes line over at Marvel, is ending at issue 10. Later explaining issue 10 is not a cliffhanger ending. It is the ending of the book. We've known about this for a while. We've known we could put a proper cap on it. Interesting enough, as Doc and I stated when we announced this stuff and started talking about the creative teams, NYX is pre-canceled. Yes, it ended up being a 10-issue miniseries because NYX was a pretty stupid idea. Mutant coming of age, not superhero book in a superhero line written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzig that have never had a successful ongoing series. Their Captain America series got canceled faster than any other Captain America ongoing starring Steve Rogers. There have been some starring Sam Wilson that actually got canceled faster, but theirs was canceled the fastest. Anytime Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzig get announced for an ongoing, you know that it's not going to make it past 12 issues because they don't have a fan base, because they're not very good, but they keep getting these chances. They get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. You know, we've already talked a little bit about Giant Size X-Men, which we're going to talk about way more in depth with Doc on Sunday here on the channel. But at some point, the leadership have to say, hey, these guys aren't connecting with our audience. They aren't draws. It doesn't matter if we put them on a big book like a Captain America or we put them on a little book like an NYX. They cannot hack it in the short or long term. And maybe it's time for them to go somewhere else, try again, maybe come up with a new style at attacking comic books and superhero comic books that actually is appealing to people. But NYX is one of the more embarrassing efforts that Marvel's put out in quite some time. And Marvel has put out an onerous amount of embarrassing efforts over the past 5 years. And NYX is right up there. You know, it's up there with Dazzler. And, you know, it's up there with, you know, X-Men Red. It's up there with some of the worst books they put out as of late. We knew all along it wasn't really about NYX. We're using a title that never worked to begin with. You know, it was supposed to be the Kamala Khan, you know, flagship book because Marvel has decided that Kamala in the MCU is a mutant. They are obsessed with trying to get her over now as a mutant, even though she couldn't get over as a Inhuman. Maybe the Inhuman part was the only thing holding her back, and they keep trying and trying and trying, and they're going to keep trying because Lanzig later stated, starting in May out of Free Comic Book Day and then pushing forward, we are bringing Kamala Khan into her own journey of mutantdom and mutant acceptance in Giant Size X-Men. This series is going to run us through the entirety of X-Men history, from the all-new, all-different era to Dark Phoenix to Age of Apocalypse to House of M, and finally back to the present. Lanzig also posits to take Kamala on a journey that she really deserves to go on in understanding the full extent of her mutant identity and the full extent of her ability to be an X-Man. And that's essentially what they were trying to do with NYX. It's a continuation of a story that they already started that is already being prematurely canceled because nobody likes it. But now they're like, well, the only thing really holding Kamala Khan back is it doesn't say Giant Size X-Men. And I will have a full conversation with Doc about the ideas behind Giant Size X-Men and what's going on with that. But that's not what this video here is about. It's about the cancellation. And the reason NYX got canceled is because it's not about superheroics. It's not about Kamala coming into her own and really proving herself as a hero. It's about a journey of self-discovery and mutant acceptance, you know, in her mutantdom. And that's quite frankly boring. And it's another flat out like telescopic lens on what Doc and I have been saying for years. The X-Men, the mutants in Marvel Comics, are just, in the minds of the creators and probably the editors at this point, an LGBTQ allegory. Most people just don't give a fuck about anyone's journey into acceptance. Be yourself. If you're fucking cool, I'll like you. No matter what your gender identity is, no matter what your sexuality is, no matter what your race is, no matter what your religion is, if you're fucking cool, I will like you. And if you're not comfortable with yourself, why would I ever want to be friends with you? Now, if you wanted to do like a Kamala Khan imposter syndrome, realizing that she's not really a mutant or she hasn't been a mutant and she doesn't believe that she should be a part of the X-Men, but she has to kind of get over those fears and really come into her own, aka the story of Worf in Star Trek, which is absolutely amazing, aka the original story of Carol Danvers when she was a warbird and all that kind of stuff. Really interesting stories. You can do that stuff. But it's not really about that. It's about the community around them learning to accept that they are always awesome. And that's not compelling storytelling, but that's basically what Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing are doing at NYX. And that's why it sucks so many donkey balls. That's why nobody wants to fucking read it, because it's boring. It's trite. It's not interesting. And it's not really a character journey. It's the world's journey to realizing that that character was always amazing from the beginning. And that's why these fuckers fail every single time. They don't understand what's interesting to people. Show me why she's badass. Show me why she's somebody that other heroes should respect. Show me why she saved the city and all this stuff, and people should recognize that she is a very, very capable hero. You never get that. You just, oh, she's being disrespected. The bartender won't even serve her goddamn orange juice because she's a goddamn bigot. Like, that's not interesting. Have the bartender being robbed and she goes in there and saves him, and a little baby's about to die and she saves the baby at the exact same time. You're like, wow, she's really fucking capable. And look at that. She was so aware in her moment that while she was trying to stop this guy, a baby was about to get hurt. She was able to save the baby too. And she got the guy and he's in jail. Fuck, they named a sandwich after her. She must be pretty badass. But you never get anything like that. It's like, oh, look at all these fucking bigots, dude. They don't even accept her. What a bunch of fucking assholes. She's amazing. Look, I mean, the other characters in the cast have told her she's amazing 5 times in this issue. Why doesn't everyone else understand that she's amazing? Stop telling me and start showing me. But that is not the only comic book that got canceled. It wasn't just NYX that started the bleed, the bloodbath that's going to be going on with X-Men over the next 3 or 4 months. X-Force is also ending at 10 issues. There was a conversation on CBR forums where series writer Jeffrey Thorne, aka Red Jack, stated, yeah, sadly, we're done at number 10, not sure why. He was asked, will we get closure or was too much sidetracked by the crossover in the anniversary book? Thorne responded, you will get a real The End, but you'll also miss about 5 issues of what would have got us there. Should be interesting. The art looks amazing. The writing, This is kind of what he put on there, which obviously is a bit of self-deprecation on the part of Jeffrey Thorne. What's weird about this is Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing, or at least Jackson Lanzing, when he was stating about the cancellation of NYX, is like, we had lots of time before this was canceled. We knew this was coming. You know, we were able to configure it to where we got to tell the story, you know, in our minds, at least, that we wanted to tell with the first arc or the first year or whatever. And we were able to conclude it cleanly. It sounds like nobody told Jeffrey Thorne that this was being canceled until, I don't know, like fucking yesterday. Like, oh yeah, by the way, Jeff, that book of yours, that's fucking axe, dude. Like, it doesn't sound like he got very much lead time, so he was still planning on having at least 15 issues. Now, why would he have thought he had 15 issues? I'm assuming that he was contracted with 10 issues with the option of picking up maybe 5 at a time or something like that. I'm not really sure. You know, he had the exact same problem when he wrote Green Lantern over at DC Comics, where he had this big sweeping thing that was probably going to have to take 2 or 3 years to complete. And he got nowhere near that. He got 12 issues, and they're like, no, this is canceled because it's not doing well. Of all the From the Ashes books, at least at this point, I guess Cable, Love and Chrome kind of feels pretty superheroic. It kind of actually feels like Cable. Like X-Force was the team book, that felt like an X-Men team book. It was a group of characters led by Forge, which I do think was a mistake, kind of going out there, and they had this sphere with fissures on it, and they had to go discover what the fissure was before it destroyed the world. And they were just kind of jumping around, in their ship, going and saving the world. I mean, that's very fucking X-Men. Well, I think the concept is perfectly fine. Well, kind of generic, perfectly fine. Like, there weren't a lot of personalities going on there. Everyone was kind of boring and milquetoast. And there wasn't a lot of like butting heads or interpersonal dynamics that made you really buy into the characters and relationships and adversarial, friendships and all that kind of stuff. The bedrock of X-Men, besides the action and heroics, like you really get into the characters and the way that they work together. That really wasn't present almost at all. And while I didn't think it was bad, I just stopped reading it. I never even played on it. I would just, whenever I would get to that thing, I'd get all my review copies out. You'd always go at the end. I would just never get to it. And I never thought, wow, I should really go back and read X-Force. Like, it wasn't even bad. Like, at least with NYX, when you read it, you're getting fucking cringed left and right. Like, oh, fuck, what is this? What is this? You never really got that with X-Force. You're just kind of like, all right, there's a little adventure. They're going on to another place next. And it didn't stand out. It wasn't memorable. And I think Jeff Thorne just might be a really bad comic book writer. I know he's had a lot more success in Hollywood, like as a screenwriter and stuff like that. He might like the characters. He might know a lot of the lore and stuff. I just don't think he really understands what people are looking for in a much different way than Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing. I think he really would like to entertain people, and he's doing things that he thinks would be fun. And in theory, X-Force should have been fun. It really wasn't. It was quite unmemorable. And also X-Force, once you get through Uncanny X-Men, X-Men, Wolverine, X-Force is like the number 4 title that should be pretty fucking stable as far as sales. There's a built-in audience for it. I don't imagine the sales kept up with that. I think people were falling off this pretty quickly. So while the sales are probably much better on X-Force than they are on NYX, they probably aren't good enough for an X-Force book. And I imagine the title will be recycled and back into production, by the end of the year, at least. So there you go. 2 completely different reasons why we got this X-Men Bloodbath beginning. But it all kind of comes back to the same thing. You got people, put them on major titles, or what should have been major titles. These are the X-Men titles coming out of From the Ashes on this reboot, where people were desperately looking for change out of the Krakoan era, but they didn't hire good creative. Like, I don't think Jeff Thorne is a good creator. I know Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing are just terrible, and that's kind of what they got. They got terrible results because they didn't go out there and actually try to find anybody interesting or any type of pedigree. The best they could do was Gail Simone. That kind of just tells you how bad it is for Tom Brevoort and the X-Men office. But this is just the beginning. There will be a bloodbath happening over the next 3 to 4 months. Lots of X-Men titles canceled. If you appreciate what we're doing here and you would like to support the efforts of Thinking Critical YouTube to shine a spotlight on comic books, talk about the news, get some reviews out there, open dialogue conversations, the best place to support that mission to be a part of it is Thinking Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description. There's also a little button right here. You go check it out. You find the tier for you. You get some awesome podcasts. Get some bonus material, you get some extra videos, stuff like that. You get a superhero name, and you get to be a part of the family. And I hope to see you there very, very soon.